Every spring, the same quiet disaster plays out at garden centers across America. Shoppers walk out with containers full of color and walk back in 6 weeks later wondering what went wrong. The plants were not the victims of bad weather or bad luck. They were the wrong plants entirely. 17 perennials exist that cost the same as everything else on those shelves, demand almost nothing after planting, and return stronger with every passing year. One of them, number 12 on this list, becomes more beautiful the more you neglect it. The 3 container secrets at the end of this video have killed more plants than drought and cold combined when gardeners got them wrong. Every single plant on this list is covered by zone, by variety, and by exactly what it needs to survive and thrive in your containers. Drop your US state in the comments right now. Your USDA hardiness zone changes which of these plants will perform best for you, and specific zones will be called out throughout this entire video. This channel delivers real, zone-specific, experience-based gardening content every single week. Hit subscribe. It is free. It has always been free, and every video is built to save you money and stop you from losing plants you never had to lose. Plant number 1. Sedum. Every sedum leaf contains its own water reservoir. The plant does not rely on you remembering to water it. It relies on itself. Established sedum has been documented surviving 6 to 8 consecutive weeks of zero watering and bouncing back without permanent damage. 6 to 8 weeks. Try that with anything else on your patio right now. Here is the counterintuitive truth most gardeners never discover about sedum. Rich, heavily fertilized soil produces tall, floppy, unattractive growth. Lean, slightly poor soil produces compact, colorful, structurally striking plants. Stop fertilizing sedum completely. The plant responds to your restraint with better form, deeper color, and tighter structure season after season. Autumn fire produces deep copper-pink flower clusters from September through November and holds upright in containers without collapsing. Dragon's blood grows low with vivid red foliage that intensifies dramatically as fall temperatures drop. Matrona is tall and architectural with burgundy stems and dusty pink blooms that look designed by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. USDA zones 3 through 9. Sedum handles hard freezes without any protection. In zones 9 and 10, afternoon shade during peak summer heat keeps performance reliable. Water deeply once at planting, then pull back to once every 2 to 3 weeks through summer. When temperatures cool in fall, stop watering entirely. The color display that follows will be the strongest in your entire container collection. Plant number 2. Lavender. Lavender evolved on rocky Mediterranean hillsides with almost no soil nutrition and near zero moisture retention. That origin story explains exactly why the moisture-retaining potting mix most gardeners automatically reach for is lavender's primary killer. The fix is simple and permanent. Mix your standard potting soil with 1/3 coarse perlite or horticultural grit before planting. Use containers with a minimum of 3 drainage holes. Never place saucers underneath. That single adjustment makes lavender nearly bulletproof in a pot. Hid coat is deep purple, compact, and the most cold, hardy English variety available, surviving reliably down to zone 5. For gardeners in the south or along the Gulf Coast, phenomenal is the correct choice. It handles heat and humidity better than any other lavender and performs consistently across zones 6 through 9. For fragrance above all else, Grosso carries a higher essential oil concentration than any other variety and blooms continuously from June through August. Never fertilize lavender in containers, not once through the entire season. Rich nutrients produce soft, weak growth with diminished fragrance. The essential oil concentration that creates both the scent and the natural insect-repelling properties actually increases when the plant runs slightly lean. Restraint here is not acceptable practice. It is the correct technique. Place lavender exactly where you sit outside in the evenings. Brush the foliage gently as you walk past. The oils release immediately. a fragrant, mosquito-repelling personal space that costs $3 and a 5-gallon pot. Plant number 3. Russian sage. Once Russian sage establishes roots, it blooms continuously from July through October. 4 straight months of blue-purple flowers on silver-white stems. Most flowering perennials give you 4 to 6 weeks of color. Russian sage gives you 4 months. In container gardening, that is the difference between a plant that earns its space and one that merely occupies it. Zero pest pressure. Deer avoided entirely. The aromatic foliage repels insects naturally. Even after blooming ends, the silver architectural stem structure provides real winter interest when every other container on your street looks bare and forgotten. In zones 4 through 9, Russian sage grows as a reliable perennial requiring exactly 1 maintenance task per year. Cut it back to 6 inches in late February or early March. That is the entire annual workload, 30 seconds of effort. In return, it comes back fuller and more floriferous than the season before. That exchange is almost unreasonably favorable. In Zone 4 specifically, move the container against a protected south-facing wall before hard freeze. In Zones 8 and 9, it may behave as semi-evergreen, holding its silver stem structure through mild winters and providing year-round container interest without any additional work. One thing most gardening content never mentions about Russian sage: it performs better in a container than in the ground. The contained root system encourages more compact, upright growth than open soil planting. Putting this plant in a pot is not a compromise. It is an improvement. Plant number 4. Hens and chicks. This is the only container plant that actively tries to give you more plants without being asked. The mother rosette, called the hen, continuously produces smaller rosettes around its outer edge. Those are the chicks. Each chick is a genetically complete, fully independent plant. Separate it with your fingers, drop it into a fresh container with minimal soil, and it establishes without any special treatment whatsoever. The mother hen blooms once after several years, then dies. By that point, she has produced enough chicks to fill multiple containers several times over. The plant replaces itself and expands your collection at the same time. Cobweb hens and chicks is covered in fine white threads across the rosette surface that look exactly like delicate spider webs. It stops people mid-stride. Red beauty transitions from green to deep burgundy as temperatures fall, giving you a plant that looks completely different at the end of the season than it did at the beginning. Pacific blue ice produces blue-gray rosettes that appear almost artificial. USDA zones 3 through 8. These plants handle hard freezes without any protection at all. They evolved in the Swiss Alps, the Carpathian Mountains, on exposed rocky ridges at high elevation with scorching summers and bitter winters, and almost no soil. Your container garden, even a neglected one, is luxurious by comparison. They thrive in containers as shallow as 4 inches, making them ideal for windowsill gardens, wall planters, and small balconies where deeper containers simply are not practical. Plant number 5. Catmint Walker's Low. 6 months of continuous bloom in American containers. 6 full months. Most annuals cannot match that timeline, and catmint returns every single year. From May through October, Walker's Low produces continuous clouds of blue-purple flowers on arching stems with gray-green aromatic foliage. Butterflies are strongly attracted. Visible wildlife activity around your containers all summer, without planting anything specifically designed for that purpose. When the first flush of flowers starts looking tired in July, cut the entire plant back by half. The cut looks severe for about 10 days. Then it returns with a second flush that is often heavier than the first. 2 complete bloom cycles from one plant in a single season. Most gardeners skip this step and lose 6 to 8 weeks of color every summer without understanding why their catmint underperformed. Zones 3 through 8, Walker's Low is fully cold hardy and needs water only once weekly once established, even through peak summer heat. In zones 8 and 9, afternoon shade prevents foliage burn while maintaining reliable performance across the entire growing season. Compare catmint directly to petunias, the most commonly purchased container plant in America. Petunias need deadheading every few days, weekly fertilizing, and complete replacement every single year. Catmint needs one trim per season, no fertilizer, and comes back stronger every spring for years. The only reason more American gardeners are not growing catmint in containers is that garden centers make significantly more money selling petunias annually. That is the honest answer. Plant number 6. Hosta Sum and Substance. Hostas are more beautiful in containers than in ground plantings. Not equally beautiful, more beautiful. Containers eliminate slugs, the primary destroyer of hosta foliage in the ground. Containers eliminate drainage problems. Hostas rot in poorly draining ground soil, but thrive in a well-managed container mix. And containers give you portability. Move them to your best display location in summer and to a protected spot before hard freeze in fall. Sum and Substance produces enormous chartreuse gold leaves up to 18 inches across that glow and shade as though lit from inside. Halcyon carries powder blue foliage that is naturally slug-resistant and stays clean all season without any intervention. Patriot has deep green leaves with crisp white margins that look hand-painted, zones 3 through 9. One of the widest cold hardiness ranges of any shade perennial available to American gardeners. A hosta in a well-managed container does not need to be replaced, ever. It divides naturally every few years. You separate it into 2 or 3 plants, move them into fresh containers with fresh soil, and the cycle continues indefinitely. Container hostas entering their 12th year are not unusual. The original plant has long since produced enough divisions to fill 8 containers. That is the mathematics of perennial gardening that annual gardeners never get to experience. Plant number 7. Coral Bells, Heuchera. Heuchera is available in burgundy, silver, lime green, caramel, orange, and near black. More color range than most flowering plants, and that color is present from the moment the plant breaks dormancy in spring until hard freeze in fall. No waiting for bloom season. Color from day 1. Palace Purple produces deep burgundy leaves that appear almost black in certain light, one of the most dramatic foliage effects achievable in container gardening. Lime Ricky is electric chartreuse that illuminates shady corners in a way no other plant can. Caramel produces warm amber-orange tones that shift throughout the season, looking noticeably different every month from April through October. Zones 4 through 9, Heuchera, is reliably cold hardy. Most people place it in deep shade and then wonder why the color fades. Heuchera produces its most intense foliage color in bright indirect light or 2 to 3 hours of gentle morning sun, not deep shade. Move your Heuchera containers to where they catch morning light and watch the color intensity shift within 2 weeks. That one adjustment delivers more visual impact than any fertilizer or soil amendment you could apply. Plant number 8, Astilbe. When people see Astilbe in bloom, they assume it is difficult. The feathery plumes look like something from a professional florist arrangement. That level of visual beauty does not require that level of effort. In containers, Astilbe performs better than in any ground planting you will ever see. In the ground, Astilbe depends entirely on whatever moisture the surrounding soil holds. In a dry summer, the plumes come in smaller and the bloom period shortens. In a container, you control exactly how much water the plant receives. That control produces bigger plumes, longer bloom periods, and cleaner foliage than open ground planting in the same garden. Bridal Veil produces pure white plumes that glow in shade with an elegance that stops people mid-conversation. Fanal has deep red flowers rising above dark bronze foliage, one of the most dramatic color combinations available in shade container gardening. Sprite is compact, shell pink, perfect for smaller containers, and has won more awards than almost any other Astilbe variety in American horticulture. Zones 3 through 8, Astilbe is fully cold hardy and returns reliably every spring with more flowering stems than the previous season. Unlike most drought-tolerant plants on this list, Astilbe prefers consistent moisture, which containers make straightforward to manage. After blooming ends, do not cut the spent plumes immediately. Left standing through fall, they transition to a warm russet, brown that provides real container interest into November. Plant number 9, Japanese painted fern. This fern makes people stop walking and ask what it is, every single time. The silver and burgundy coloring looks like someone painted each frond individually by hand. It adds a metallic, almost luminous quality to shady container arrangements that nothing else on this list can replicate. Burgundy lace has more pronounced purple tones than the standard variety. Ghost is nearly pure silver, almost luminous in deep shade, and one of the most visually striking foliage plants you can place in a container regardless of price point. The classic Pictum variety, silver gray with a burgundy midrib running down each frond, remains one of the best performing varieties after decades of availability in American nurseries. Hardy in zones 3 through 8. Here is one specific thing most people get wrong. Do not cut back the old fronds in fall. Leave them standing through winter. They provide natural insulation for the crown through hard freezes. Remove them in early spring when fresh growth emerges from the base. That timing protects the plant through its most vulnerable period. Plant number 10, Bergenia Winterglow. This is the plant that proves container gardening does not stop when summer ends. In spring, it produces clusters of pink flowers before most other perennials have even broken dormancy, often while frost is still on the ground. Through summer, thick glossy leaves provide bold container structure. In fall, those leaves begin transitioning to deep burgundy red as temperatures drop. Through winter, the evergreen foliage holds form and color, while every other container around it looks empty and forgotten. Hardy in zones 3 through 8, tolerates deep shade, drought, poor soil, and temperatures well below zero once established. In zones 3 and 4, the winter color display is actually most dramatic. The coldest temperatures produce the deepest burgundy tones, and the contrast against snow or frost is spectacular in a way that photographs do not fully capture. Plant number 11, Black-Eyed Susan, Rudbeckia. One mature Black-Eyed Susan produces between 80 and 120 simultaneous blooms at peak flowering. Not over the course of a season, at one time. The mass of golden yellow against dark centers creates a color impact in containers that is nearly impossible to replicate with any other single plant at the same price point. Goldsturm is the benchmark variety, award-winning, compact enough for containers, blooming continuously from July through September. Prairie Sun has yellow petals with green centers, a fresher and more contemporary look. Cherry Brandy produces unusual copper-orange tones that set it completely apart from every other yellow-flowering perennial in a container lineup. Hardy in zones 3 through 9. Here's the performance fact most gardeners miss. Black-Eyed Susan performs better in its second and third year than as a new planting. The root system strengthens over winter and produces more flowering stems each successive season, not just buying a plant, making a compounding investment in your container garden. Leave the seed heads standing through fall and winter. Goldfinches, chickadees, and house finches feed on them actively from October through February. Your container becomes a wildlife feeding station that costs nothing to operate after the plant is established. Plant number 12, Lamb's Ear. Stackies. The plant that gets more beautiful the less you do to it. The science behind it is one of the most fascinating things in container gardening. Lamb's ear originates from rocky, sun-baked hillsides in Turkey and Iran. The leaves are covered in dense silver-white hairs. Those hairs are not decorative. They are a survival system. They reflect intense sunlight to prevent the leaf from overheating. They trap a thin layer of dry air against the leaf surface to slow moisture loss. Overwater lamb's ear, and those hairs flatten against the leaf, trap moisture instead of air, and the plant rots from the outside in. Underwater it, and the hairs stay upright, stay silver, and the plant becomes more striking with every week of drought. Big Ears produces leaves up to 6 inches long, the most dramatic variety for container display. Helen von Stein rarely produces flowers, sending all plant energy directly into silver foliage production. The strongest choice when pure visual impact is the priority. Silky fleece is smaller and more compact, perfect for mixed container arrangements where a silver accent is needed without a dominant presence. Hardy in zones 4 through 8. In zones 9 and 10, provide afternoon shade. Place lamb's ear next to almost any other container plant, and it does something those plants cannot do. It invites touch. People reach out and brush it without thinking. That tactile quality, combined with the silver color, makes it one of the most commented on plants in any container garden, and you achieve all of it by watering it less than anything else on your patio. Plant number 13, daylily. Hemerocallis. Each daylily bloom lasts exactly 1 day. Each plant produces 30 to 50 buds per stem. The result is continuous color for months from a plant that asks for almost nothing after the first season. Stella d'Oro is the gold standard for containers, compact, reblooming from spring through frost, universally reliable across American climates. Happy Returns is pale yellow and slightly more heat tolerant. Purple d'Oro delivers the same compact, reliable growth in deep purple, hardy in zones 3 through 9. Daylilies divide themselves naturally every 3 to 4 years. You sever the clump and move sections into fresh containers at zero cost. The plant multiplies your collection while requiring less maintenance than nearly anything else on this list. Drop in the comments what color daylily you have or want in your containers. The variety selection is overwhelming, and the responses always reveal what American gardeners are most drawn to. Plant number 14. Ornamental grass, Carl Forster. No other container plant does what ornamental grass does. Movement, sound, 4-season structure, zero maintenance after the first year. Spring brings fresh green vertical structure back to containers. Summer develops characteristic wheat-colored feathery plumes. Fall transitions to warm gold while seed heads feed birds. Winter provides standing architectural structure. The only container plant that looks intentional in January when everything else looks abandoned. Carl Forster feather reed grass stands narrow and upright at 4 to 5 feet, the most architectural container grass available, hardy in zones 4 through 9. Morning Light has fine silver-edged leaves with graceful arching form and pink plumes in fall, hardy in zones 5 through 9. Blue fescue forms compact blue-gray mounds at 10 to 12 inches, perfect for smaller containers and mixed arrangements, hardy in zones 4 through 8. Cut ornamental grasses back to 4 to 6 inches in late February. That is the complete maintenance requirement for the entire year. One task. 5 minutes. Then watch it return taller and fuller than the season before. Plant number 15. Coneflower. Echinacea. Native plant. Medicinal history going back centuries. Blooms for 4 months. Seeds that feed birds through winter. Virtually indestructible in containers. Magnus purple is the classic, with larger flower heads than the wild species, and an incredibly reliable container habit. White swan is pure white with orange centers and slightly more shade tolerant than purple varieties. Hot paprika produces double orange-red flowers, the most dramatic modern variety available, hardy in zones 3 through 9. Seed heads left standing through fall, and winter feed goldfinches, chickadees, and house finches. The National Wildlife Federation has documented coneflower as one of the top 5 bird-feeding native plants in America. Coneflower also self-seeds into surrounding containers, producing free plants every season without any effort on your part. Plant number 16, hellebore, Ice and Roses series. This plant blooms in snow. While every other container on your porch sits dormant, hellebore is producing flowers. Blooms run from December through April, the longest single bloom period of any perennial available to American gardeners. Ice and Roses. Red produces deep burgundy flowers from December through March. Wedding Party carries pure white double flowers from January through April. Penny's Pink delivers soft pink with darker veining, one of the most elegant hellebore varieties in the American market. Hardy in zones 4 through 9. In zones 7 through 9, bloom season can stretch from November through April, 5 full months of winter flowers. Most gardeners spend winter staring at empty containers. Hellebore. Gardeners spend winter looking at flowers. That difference costs exactly the same amount of effort. Plant number 17, Evergreen Sedum, Autumn Fire. The final plant on this list makes your containers look intentional and professionally designed across all 4 seasons. Spring brings tight rosettes of fresh blue-green growth, clean and sculptural. Summer fills the container as stems strengthen. Fall transitions flower heads from pink to deep copper red, the peak ornamental moment of the entire year. Winter holds dried seed heads and sturdy stems through frost and snow, providing real architectural structure when nothing else does. Hardy in zones 3 through 9, completely drought-tolerant once established. Containers go weeks without water in winter with zero damage, never needs dividing. Gets more attractive and substantial every single year without any intervention. Between Hellebore and Evergreen Sedum Autumn Fire, you now have winter containers that look professionally designed, and both plants got there by being almost completely ignored from October through March. Now, the 3 secrets that determine whether any of these plants actually survive long-term in containers. Secret number 1. Drainage kills more plants than drought. The number 1 killer of container perennials in America is not underwatering, it is overwatering, combined with poor drainage. Roots sitting in waterlogged soil cannot access oxygen. They suffocate and rot, and by the time damage appears in the foliage, the root system is already gone. Every container needs a minimum of 3 half-inch drainage holes. Add a 2-inch layer of coarse gravel at the base before adding any soil. Never place saucers under drought-tolerant perennials. Water should drain visibly within 15 to 20 seconds of application. Cooling longer than 30 seconds means the mix is too dense and the roots are already at risk. Secret number 2. Container size determines everything. A perennial in a 10-inch container needs water every 1 to 2 days in summer. The same plant in a 16-inch container needs water every 3 to 4 days. The same plant in a 24-inch container needs water once to twice weekly. Minimum size for every perennial on this list is 16 inches in diameter. Anything smaller defeats the entire purpose of low-maintenance container gardening. In winter, small containers freeze solid. A perennial in a 10-inch pot in Zone 5 has almost no insulation between its roots and a hard freeze. The same plant in a 24-inch container has thermal mass that protects roots through temperatures that would destroy them in a smaller pot. Container size is not just about growth, it is about winter survival. Secret number 3. The soil mix that does half the work for you. Never use standard garden soil. Too heavy, drains poorly. Never use cheap potting mix. Mostly bark, holds too much moisture. The correct recipe is 50% quality potting mix, 30% coarse perlite, 20% compost. Drains well, retains enough moisture, and feeds slowly through the season without synthetic fertilizer. Each spring, remove the top 2 inches from each container and replace with fresh compost mixed with slow, release granular fertilizer. 10 minutes per container, once per year. That is the complete annual soil maintenance for every plant on this list. Every single one of these 17 perennials meets the same standard. They return. They strengthen. They reward patience and punish overthinking. You are not managing them. You are making space for them. Subscribe to this channel right now. Every week brings practical, zone-specific, experience-based content built for American gardeners who are done spending money on plants that do not survive to see August. Free. Always will be. Hit subscribe before you close this video. Now tell me in the comments which 3 plants from this list you are adding to your containers this season and which state you are gardening in. Your zone matters, and the decisions you make should match your actual climate. Now go fill those containers.